Hello and welcome to the Student Art Podcast. I'm your host Ross Baxter, and today is episode 91 of the series. Today on the show, I'm going to be talking about how to grow your social media following. I'm going to be breaking down everything of what I've learned over the years, from building an audience, the power of marketing, to understanding algorithms and how to target your platform. As always, folks, if you guys are new to the podcast, don't forget to subscribe. As always, smash the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And with that said, let's get right into it. So as we all know, social media is just this absolute massive beast with so much things going on, and there's so many amazing platforms out there, and I understand there's also a lot of them, and sometimes it's really hard to keep up. However, there's so much room for growth and to help you guys improve your careers, such as we got Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Twitter has 330 million users, Facebook 2.5 billion, Instagram 1 billion users, and here on YouTube there's 2 billion users on YouTube. And the important thing is obviously studying each platform, experimenting, trial and error, you name it. And to be honest, a lot of these things in today's podcast is transferable, so you can use these tips and advice that I've learned on all these different platforms. But you also have to remember as well, each platform has its unique algorithm, and you have to approach things as well differently. So let's dive straight into it, and I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, let's start off with Twitter. So with Twitter, less words, better visuals, and most importantly, keeping it simple. Visuals is everything on social media, so if it's not interesting to them, trust me, nobody's going to click it. At the end of the day, it's always quality that wins. But most importantly, you don't want to get discouraged, as the more you tweet, the more you'll learn what's working and what needs to be improved. And that's what I'm talking about, the importance of understanding the algorithm. One of the big things though with social media is that we have to realize, and especially Twitter, is it's also a conversation. So we have to acknowledge the fact that Twitter itself is a conversational platform. So it's important to develop that human tone of voice for your brand. And like I said, this goes back to the core of what social media is all about. People want to interact with other people, but not be bombarded with marketing messages all the time. And you have to realize that, and that's the importance of including specific context inside those tweets and getting across the right message. And while what you're trying to do when representing a brand is in fact marketing content, it's worth considering how you can fit that into context of what people come to the platform for and engage on a more human level. Like I said, my mistake was over marketing my tweets and saying subscribe here all the time, or this is the best thing, this, and that. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it's getting that healthy balance of the two. Another thing to do is throw in a question as well. Talk to your audience, figure things out, see what they're wanting to see. It's all about connecting with people and building a relationship. At the end of the day, you want people to follow you because they like what you do and they like the way you come across. And make sure, like I said, you want to come across the right way. Be professional, be supportive, engage with your tweets. Engagement is one of the key things to growing any platform. Every time you get a comment on YouTube, engage with that comment. Every time you get a response on your Twitter, whether it's a Twitter poll, you name it, whatever it may be, respond and interact with your audience. And because of that, your audience will just naturally grow bigger and bigger, because that tweet itself is getting more engagement. And more engagement means bigger followers. Okay, so the next topic is experience. So being able to back yourself up. So most importantly, knowing what you're talking about. At the end of the day, experience can make or break the content that you're trying to create, because word of mouth plays such a big part, and you want to make sure you're providing the best and most accurate content out there for your audience. And speaking of audience, that's the most important question you have to realize. Who is your target audience? And sometimes a lot of people start social media and they don't realize what actually are their target audience. That's the most important question you need to get answered. So spend the time and don't rush it. It takes time to figure out what you want to do. If you guys do know what you want to do, then great. Use that target audience as your goal and keep it consistent and base everything around it. Because at the end of the day, word of mouth plays such a big part. And you want to make sure that you know what you're talking about. So if you know what you're talking about and create amazing content, word will just naturally spread and your following will grow so much more. One of the biggest mistakes I ever see when it comes to social media is simply having too many social media platforms to start off with. You want to focus on one platform. build your audience through that, get to your first 1,000 followers, and then bring them across over to, let's say, Twitter, for example. That's what I did. So when I gained my first 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, I then transferred them across over to my Twitter by simply including my information in the podcast itself, and then also in the links in the description below, as always. So if you guys want to go check me out, you can follow me on Twitter at RossBaxterArt. That'd be much appreciated. But like I said, make sure to focus on building one thing first. At the end of the day, it takes time, and you want to be putting as much quality into that main platform as always, and naturally your following will just grow and get so much better from there. So when it comes to posting, one of the other things about posting on multiple platforms, believe it or not, I've been a massive culprit of this, and it's simply not changing the words up a bit. I've simply just copied and pasted on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and done the exact same thing. Same for Facebook. And you actually want to change things up a wee bit. Like, add a wee bit more context. Maybe when it comes to me posting a podcast, what could I do? I could simply add a different topic that we talked about in each segment on each separate platform. So that means that my audience who follow me on multiple platforms are going to get something a wee bit more fresh, a wee bit more unique, rather than just seeing the exact same thing all the time. So that's one tip that I highly recommend you guys to make sure to kind of focus on, because when you see the same post everywhere, yes, it's great to see that you're utilizing all your different platforms, but you want to make sure that you don't come across as always spamming. Another aspect when it comes to the concept of experience. So earlier we were talking about how important experience plays a part in growing your following. And knowledge is everything. Like, knowledge, as they say, knowledge is power. So if you have made a successful art piece, people will ask questions. People crave knowledge. People want to know how you did it. They ask all these types of questions in the comments, whether it's on ArtStation, Twitter, you name it, wherever it may be. They'll even ask you to possibly write a blog. Write your process, reach out to article writers, etc., magazine companies, all these different people. And that's another way to really help grow your following, because like I said, translating back to word of mouth is super important. And if you're reaching out to bigger companies, bigger names, people who distribute content on a regular basis, that's more exposure for yourself. That's a super awesome opportunity. So I've been very fortunate when it comes to the exposure aspect in terms of getting my name out there. Like, I'm very grateful for everyone who's helped me when it comes to writing a magazine article for Imagine FX. That was an awesome opportunity for the podcast to really get our name out there and to allow me to help you guys even more. Also, our sponsor, the Rookies Award, another amazing opportunity that I made sure to talk to them and grab and make the most of it, because they're amazing people and they've helped me a tremendous amount along the way. And it's the same with other articles as well. So if you guys have the chance to write an article or get your name out there, take it. This is a chance for you to get your name out there. Even if you're a student and you're maybe a wee bit not so confident with the work that you're doing, it's okay. It's another chance to get your name out there. So anyone who's trying to get any exposure, do your research into these companies who are trying to get to help you out as well. That's another important aspect of this discussion. You don't want to just do articles and stuff for people that you don't know about. Make sure that's a name that you're aware of, and this will play such a massive part to your growth in social media. One of the other things I've seen for years, like I literally mean years, I've seen on any social media platform, is people following people just to gain a follower back. And personally, that strategy, it never works. It never adds value to what you're trying to create. Unless you actually care about following the person that you want to follow. Like, you should be following people that you want to follow. I have a friend who has 9,000 followers, but he's following 10,000 people. So that means, because of the way the algorithm works, the algorithm never shows everything. So if you follow, say, 100 people, you're lucky if you see 10 of those tweets or 10 of those people tweets in that day on Twitter. So if you're following so many people, you're not going to get the value that you're looking for. Because at the end of the day, I follow people on social media to gain knowledge, to learn, because I appreciate what they do. I love what they do, whether it's creating art, whether it's marketing experts, TV hosts, because that's the people I follow. So I follow specific artists in my field. I love following business developers, marketing experts, and most importantly, TV hosts, because I am a presenter. Presenting is my profession and I love doing it. Therefore, I make sure to learn from the best. So you want to make sure that you can grow and learn from the followers, from the following that you're actually following. So I always say, don't do the follow them, follow back strategy. Personally, it never works, because Yes, you can then, I guess, as some people tend to try to do, is they'll follow up to a point, say 5,000 followers, and then try to unfollow all of them. But then their following begins to drop as well. So it's always a I don't think it's a good smart strategy. I think it's a weak strategy. I think if you want to do anything when it comes to social media, you have to earn it. You have to work hard and do it naturally. Naturally is the only way, and it's the way I feel it's going to be the best result for you. And especially if you're trying to create your own business. If you're trying to create a business and people are only following you because you followed them, and that means they're not going to interact with your tweets. Because at the end of the day, like I said right at the start, it's all about engagement. Engagement is the king of everything. The content you create on a daily basis is based around one concept, and that's that your audience likes what you do and that they're going to engage with it. And like I said, quality is everything. Like, it's got to be quality. And if you're following, say you have, like, I don't know, 10,000 followers, but only like 5 of them are true to you, as in like 500 of them only care about your work, then you've lost literally your whole audience. So really think about what I just said there, because that was super important for me. I always, like I said, I only follow specific people that I feel it's going to add value, and people who I guess we all admire, etc. So we've talked about the importance of quality, and I want to kind of answer what it actually means, because there's always this concept of quantity versus quality, and quality is, at the end of the day, it's the thing that in the long term always plays off, because every time that you really spend a long time, say for example on a YouTube video, and you really think about what you're going to do, and you've got everything set up, you name it, you've got the thumbnail to perfection, you've got the title really thought through, you've thought about all your hashtags, you've ordered your hashtags in the correct order from your top value to your lowest value, you name it, all these things play a massive part. And then you've got the other side of things, which is the quantity, which is literally making lots and lots of videos. However, when you're just starting out in social media, the one thing that you have to realize is, in order for the algorithm to actually kick in and get rolling, and for you to get the information that you're looking for, you need to pump out content. So don't be afraid to create content. Yes, we all look for quality at the end of the day, and it's super important. But when you're starting out, you need to have something to start with, and that's always the biggest struggle of people on social media, is that they're afraid to start, and starting is always normally the hardest thing to do. It takes courage to take that first step, but it's not about egos or anything. It's not about being intimidated by anyone. It's all about just getting something out there and learning from it and growing from it. So carrying on this concept of the power of quality is simply, so one of my friends, I'm so happy for him, he's literally just reached 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, and he's been working non-stop for 3 years on YouTube, learning and growing and developing his business as an animator, and I'm so happy for him. And he was inspired by Casey Neistat, and Casey Neistat, as we all know, revolutionized the vlogging industry and really upped the game for just quality for filmmaking in general. And through Casey's work, just the bar just skyrocketed, and really people really began to think about how to film things differently, how to be more unique, and just, I guess, add that extra flair that makes you different. So this is where you have to figure out, right? So if you're just starting how to grow, literally focus on just getting information out there. You have to start somewhere, and so don't be also always so OCD. However, you have to realize, as you got a wee bit more information coming in through your analytical data, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Instagram, you name it, you can then start breaking things down into schedules. And that's something we're going to be talking about shortly, is the importance of schedules and how you learn to create the right schedule based around your audience. So carrying on this trend of the power of quality is obviously on YouTube, the same for Twitter, the same for Instagram, is the reason why we click it in the first place, and that is the main image. So especially with YouTube, and the way it works is your thumbnail is king alongside your title, and your YouTube searches are super crucial. So you need to know what titles are being searched the most based around that topic, and if that search is not common, then you need to make it common. And it's through trial and error, through experimentation, through your ability to research. Like, research is super important when it comes to the success of a tweet, the success of a YouTube video, whether it's the same on LinkedIn, you name it. Like, it's all about putting the right time into things and understanding the craft and understanding the algorithm. Like, algorithm, I'll keep saying it today, it's literally such an important aspect of everything to do with marketing, and it gives you the right strategies to grow and to bring your things to the next level. So what I was doing, to give you guys a wee bit of context when it comes to my podcast, you guys will know I've experimented 4 times with thumbnails and how I wanted to target this. And the reason why I did this was I was thinking long term. I was constantly thinking long term rather than just to make a thumbnail and a background for my podcast. Like, a lot of people think that the background and that should always be the same, but I wanted to switch things up, and there was a reason for that, and it was to provide me with the ability to branch out to a bigger audience, and most importantly allow me to progress to my next step, which is my future goals, which is obviously things that you guys can stay tuned for. So quality, you have to figure things out, experiment, trial and error, see what works, see what doesn't, and you will learn how to make the best quality video from that. So another important one to acknowledge is investing. So investing into your social media platforms. And we all need to know when is the right time to invest. And this always depends on your situation in life, whether you have enough financial backing, you name it, whatever it may be, and understanding if this is the career for you. So if you're wanting to go down the line of pursuing social media as a platform, whether it's through content creation for games, creating art, business, whatever that may be on social media, you need to get those questions answered and do your best to constantly grow and develop upon that, and realize it's going to be a patience game, and you're going to have to work hard, because social media, it's very competitive. There's lots of people trying to do it full time, and it doesn't happen overnight. And it's the same with anything that you really want. You've got to be committed, and you've got to be passionate about what you do. This is the reason why I do so many podcasts, because I love doing it and I want to do it full time as a career. And I've been really fortunate to obviously recently, 6 months ago, become a presenter, and I'm now presenting full time, which I absolutely love doing, and it's allowing me to continue to produce more content such as this. So investing is super important, and realizing, like I said, choose the situation carefully, think about what to invest in. So what do I mean by investing? Investing to me is all about your brand, so your logo, everything that defines your platform, everything that defines you as an individual, and most importantly, helps your target audience know what you're all about. And at the end of the day, you want it to be clean, concise, make sense, most importantly, nice and simple. A lot of people try to overcomplicate things. So when it comes to your brand as a whole, when it comes to developing and growing all these social media platforms, you want to be consistent. So on all your social media platforms, have the same logo, have the same channel art, have the same thing that represents you throughout all these different platforms, so people know where to look. Like, they don't want to have to be searching for ages to navigate where you are. So if you guys are on Instagram, you're on Twitter, you're on YouTube, you're on LinkedIn, you want to have all the same name on all those social media platforms. Also, when it comes to the concept of your marketing and the whole idea of your logo and your brand, is a slogan. Like, have a slogan. Also think about a strong description. So if you're on Twitter, you're on Instagram, what defines you? Possibly throw in some personality, what's your hobbies, etc. Just something to add a wee bit of flair. And another one, believe it or not, is as so many people use them, is emojis. A lot of people use them. It adds a wee bit of color and fun to your descriptions. And one thing that I did was I checked out content creators who do similar things to me, and I researched what was working for them. So I was obviously always looking into podcasters and presenters and TV shows, and I was figuring out, right, how are they writing it, what was their word choice, and I took it from there. So I highly recommend to do some research into that, and if you're wanting to do this more and more, and eventually pursue this full time, make sure to consider investing in the future and begin saving. Okay, so the one that we obviously want to talk about when it comes to the concept of investing is simply better equipment. The better the quality of your videos when it comes to, say, your camera, when it comes to your editing skills, when it comes to everything that encompasses making the actual video quality or whatever it is overall better. Things are just going to escalate so much more on your social media because people like quality so much. It's we can't deny it. It goes such a long way. So when it does come to cameras, etc., the one social media platform or the one YouTube channel I highly recommend is Think Media, and it's an amazing channel breaking down how to grow your social media following, but most importantly, cameras and the latest updates for camera equipment, you name it. And they talk about price ranges, so if you guys are struggling for money at the moment, that will help break down the cheapest options and still be a good result. Like, you can still get great content, great devices and equipment to produce awesome work. Like, you can back it up. Like, that's what I said earlier. If you can back it up with the knowledge you have, you can just use your phone. Like, your phone is just good enough to film for, as long as you edit it just good enough that you'll be fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So make sure to check into these YouTube channels as well and see what value they can give you, and that will also help you know when it's time to invest. And speaking of the concept of investing, like, at a day, if you're going to invest, you need to realize that it's time to commit, so you're going to pursue it. So take that leap, take that next step in your career and start committing to the path that you want to do. So if you want to do YouTube full time, if you want to build a brand around social media, then start investing, put your money towards it, and start planning and start thinking long term. So I highly recommend to look into better equipment, and most importantly, do your research, understand what you're investing in. Don't just buy things for the sake of it, just because somebody says it looks nice, but literally look at people who really know what they're doing. So that's Think Media. Highly recommend to watch Think Media on YouTube. When it comes to posting tweets, one of the things that you have to realize early on is, yes, you have 280 characters to work with, but you don't need to use them all. For example, when I'm posting on Twitter, the time that I begin to use more characters is obviously as simple as it sounds, is when I actually need them when it comes to getting across a certain message. One of the things that I realize is simply having areas of rest in between the posts, so separating my punchlines and the pieces of information that I want to get across. So you have your most important line, which is the one at top, and you want to make sure that each line has value. Don't just say something just for the sake of it. Learn how to use keywords. Keywords are super important. Research what words are most commonly used on social media that work for marketing trends. That's what I do all the time. Every time that I'm writing a post, I see what keywords work and what words don't work. Like, there's sometimes certain words that frustrate people a lot of the time, and you need to learn and understand that. But one of the main things on this topic is simply trial and error. Like, you have to experiment. You have to try all these different things out to see what works for your following. And another thing that I feel that doesn't work when it comes to Twitter is, don't write it as a paragraph. Remember, people are scrolling, and they are going to be scrolling very quickly because they're looking for something to click. So if they see a massive paragraph, a lot of people don't have time throughout the day to just read. Believe it or not, it's crazy to think, but people want things so easily and straight away. They don't want to be wasting any time. So if they just see a paragraph and there's no visual as well, then you're just setting yourself up for failure. So acknowledge those things and learn and grow from that. Okay, so another important element when it comes to Twitter, Instagram, all these different platforms, so this applies to everything, is simply understanding the following count number that you have. So if you have 1,000 followers, or 100 followers, 10,000 followers, whatever it may be, you're lucky if you reach a percentage of that based on the way the algorithm works. Some algorithms are a lot more generous than others. Like, believe it or not, one of the best algorithms out there is LinkedIn. And a lot of people don't use LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is so good when it comes to exposure. When you use hashtags work perfectly on LinkedIn. And on Twitter is not so strong when it comes to hashtags, when it comes to reaching out to a bigger audience. When it comes to Twitter, I tend to use 2 to 3 hashtags max. I very rarely use 3 hashtags. I used to use like 10, and it never worked when it came to the algorithm. And it's the same when it comes to Instagram. Like, Instagram has a very interesting way of using hashtags, and I'm going to be diving into hashtags later and talk about the importance of how to use hashtags to really benefit your social media platforms. But if you have, let's say, 1,000 followers, like I said, it's going to be very likely that you'll only be able to reach about 10% of them, because remember, you have to realize it's all down to schedule and timing. And that's why I always say the importance of analytics and your schedule is super important. So check out your analytical data, see what percentage is from, like, what countries are they from, what percentage of people are on at a certain time, when's your peak. Once you understand your peak, that's your posting schedule, that's your routine, that becomes your norm. So I know what my schedule is based off the amount of analytical data that I've studied, and because of that, it's really helped my social media grow. Like, I gained 500 followers in such a short period of time, and then got up to 1,000 followers because of understanding this information. And it's the same thing here on YouTube. Like, once you begin to understand and put these dots together, things begin to escalate. And it took me a lot of time, a lot of research, a lot of understanding the graphs, you name it. Like, numbers are super important, and we'll be talking about the numbers as well a wee bit down the line. But schedule is the make or break thing. Same thing on YouTube. So I've been doing YouTube for a few years now, and one of my biggest mistakes was not having a schedule. There's many great podcasts out there who had a schedule, and naturally that made their following know when they were going to post, and it's common sense, but I didn't do it. And because of that, I missed out on so many views, so many chances to grow and improve. Yes, I was putting in lots of time into my research, the questions that I was answering, getting the right guests on, most importantly, helping people as much as I could. But if there was no schedule, then people did not know when to check out my channel. And now that I've got my channel, so everything is now posted at 6 p.m. British Standard Time, and that is my routine. So Mondays and Fridays, 6 p.m. British Standard Time. And that's the same thing for social media. You need to tell your audience when are you going to post. So if you're just posting randomly, it's not going to be ingrained in their head when you're going to post next. And you want to ingrain that into your audience head and tell them, right, I know when to expect, say, the next podcast from Ross Baxter, or the next art piece that I'm going to post, or the next YouTube video that I'm doing about video games. Like, all these things are super important. Like, get into a routine, get a plan going, get a calendar, whatever it may be. Keep it simple, straight to the point, and stick to it. So one of the things that we said there was hashtags, and out of all the time I've been doing Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc., I realized that hashtags don't work that great on Twitter, and I learned that from watching content creators who specialize in social media development when it comes to building a bigger brand. So I highly recommend using less, as the way the algorithm works, the more hashtags receive 17% less engagement, and tweets with 1 or 2 has 21% increase. So like I was saying earlier, figure out the keywords that help get more engagement and use those hashtags within those phrases and within those tweets that you're posting. And there's one thing though that I said earlier as well, hashtags though work amazing on LinkedIn, so use a wide range and use as many as you can at the bottom of your post, because trust me, the way it works is it spreads to literally almost everyone on your following. So if you have say 5,000 followers or connections on LinkedIn and use all your required hashtags, trust me, the majority of them will actually see it. And yes, it's also based around engagement, etc., but hashtags on LinkedIn is probably the most generous out there to date. One of the other things I want to discuss about hashtags is on Instagram. So if you guys love using Instagram or are wanting to share your main content on Instagram, whether it's through photos or whether it's through Instagram stories, you name it, you have to acknowledge the fact that, first of all, 500 million people are using Instagram stories, and there's 1 billion people on Instagram, and 1/3 of that is also from businesses. I also highly recommend to change your Instagram account to a business account. It is free, and the great thing about that is also it will include the business title, so the area field that you're in at the top left of your Instagram account. So I highly recommend to check that out. And another thing that we also have to realize is when it comes to the hashtags on Instagram, one of the main studies that they did was that they found that 10% more engagement with hashtags in the caption itself was more successful over the comments, as for years people were using all their hashtags in the comments, but more engagements actually take place if you put it in the caption itself. And another thing that we have to realize as well, when it comes to just posts in general, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on YouTube, particularly YouTube, also Twitter, you also have to realize is you want to make your content and all your art, so your channel art, etc., all your branding has to fit for your phone. It has to fit for phone and also your computer. So make sure that the scaling of that branding works perfectly together, because you want to make sure that everything looks professional. So one of the things that always works, no matter where you are, is collaboration. Once again, going back to the topic that I was mentioning earlier, the importance of reaching out to magazines, article companies, you name it, all these things play a huge part in growing your brand. So if you're a YouTuber or are you trying to get a bigger following, simply collaborating with others who are also in the same field as you. So I do podcasts, I go on other people's podcasts and I interview other podcasters as well. But one of the biggest mistakes I always see when people do this is sometimes they do it for the wrong reasons. You want to do it for the right reasons. So most importantly, go on these things to support them and to help share the knowledge, work together as a team and do it for the right reasons. And like I said, working together with people in the same social media following size as well plays a big part in that growth as well. It's all about working together as a team and building relationships. So when it comes to doing podcasts or when it comes to creating any social media platform, develop that trust, develop that relationship with people, and it could also lead on to future collaborations in the future, which is super important. And like I said, it's all about relationships and making that connection strong. So another thing that you also have to acknowledge when it does come to the whole industry that we're in is there's so many people that we are competing against to try to make our mark in the industry, whether it's doing a podcast, whether it's creating video games, whether it's like Fortnite, etc. There's so many games that so many people are trying to play, or so many things that people are trying to do to make their name get out there. And when it comes to all this, you have to realize it's all about analyzing, understanding what the people who are successful in the field that you're wanting to get into are doing. So see what they're doing. One of the main things, believe it or not, is trends. Everybody likes to go on the bandwagon, and there's a reason for that. And that's another important aspect. Get involved, etc. For me as an artist, there's one particular thing that people like to do, and that's the art share. So whether it's on ArtStation, you name it, there's things such as art shares where everybody on Twitter shares all their work, and you see everyone coming together in the community for artists, and it's great to see. So sometimes checking out the bandwagons and seeing what's trending plays such a huge part in your growth, and that one also helps, as always, with the titles of your YouTube videos. So make sure to check those things out. But like I said, analyze the people who are the best in the industry in your field. Learn from them, grow from them, appreciate what they do, interact with them. Even better, message them, see if there's a possibility to get involved and learn from the best. That's what I've been doing my whole career. I've messaged thousands of people worldwide asking for advice, learning from them, supporting them, and going back and forth and developing that trust. And like I said, it goes such a long way. And another thing, I've got two more points that I kind of want to discuss in today's podcast. So one of the other things that you also have to do is play to your strengths. So figure out what are you best at. So there's four main platforms or four main themes that everything to do with social media is based on. So it's words, photos, audio, or video. And I learned this from Think Media. So I was talking earlier about the power of Think Media as a social media platform, and he was talking about how there's different types of content creators out there. There's those who are masters at words through social media. There's those who are on Instagram who use photos as their go-to source. There's audio, so podcasters like myself, that's my main strength. Talking is my strength because I'm a presenter. I interview people literally day by day, all the time. And then there's video. So obviously video, once again, it implements talking as well. There's all these different things, but figure out what you're best at. And then once again, this then tailors to the most important and obvious thing. It's just hard work. Success doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. Be patient with it. A lot of people try social media and they give up too early. They think, oh, it's not working. I've only got 50 subscribers. I've only got 100 subscribers. I've only got 1,000 subscribers. Trust me, it always plans out the way when you commit and you put in the time and effort. I'm never going to stop making content, and I love making content, and that's what I love to do. And the more I've done it, the more opportunities have risen. It helped me get my first job as a presenter through doing it, and most importantly, I've been able to help thousands of people through my podcast, and thousands of people have helped me as well. It's great seeing everyone interact on the podcast and everyone learning together, and I'm so grateful to everyone who's came on my podcast so far, and it's been a pleasure doing this. So like I said, folks, you gotta work hard. As obvious as it sounds, it's all about hard work at the end of the day. And I always like to include the word patience, because things do happen over time. It takes time to get there. Like I said, when it comes to videos, etc., when it comes to Twitter, when it comes to Instagram, all these social media platforms, you have to give it time for the algorithm to kick in. So you need to get those videos out there. You need to get those Instagram posts out there, those tweets, you name it. Get the analytical data rolling, and start focusing on quality. Start learning. Start growing. Start researching all these industry developers, business entrepreneurs, you name all these different things to really grow your brand as a whole. So I just want to thank everyone for tuning into today's episode of the Student Art Podcast. Smash the like button as always. Don't forget to subscribe, it'd be much appreciated. If you guys don't know, the art share is back, so make sure to post your ArtStations links in the comments, and let me know what is your favorite social media platform. Mine's YouTube, and a close Twitter as a second. So post that in the comments below. It'd be great to see what everyone's reaction is with today's video. And with that said, folks, we will see you guys in the next podcast. Bye for now.